Hello, my name is Dean Fish. I'm with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association Stockmanship and Stewardship program. We're here in Maine at Collyer Brook Farm. We're getting ready to kind of do some work with these nice red cows here. A lot of times when we do these demos, we're dealing with younger animals or like weaned heifers, so pairs will be a little bit different today for us, and that'll be a lot of fun to kind of mess around with them a little bit. But before we kind of get started moving around and doing some stuff, we wanted to talk a little bit about kind of some basic principles of animal behavior and why they're kind of important to understand and to know. So first of all, this is going to be really basic, but we think about kind of a pressure zone or a zone of influence or a flight zone or whatever. And the way I like to think of that is as kind of a force field or a bubble around those cows. And some of these cows are going to have a pretty big one. Some of those are going to have a pretty small one. Now, our manager, Tim, here has got these cows broke really, really well, and they like a grain bucket. And so they're comfortable being around people. So when we approach them, and I go and I look at these cows and I walk kind of through them, you can kind of see there's some different cows that have different flight zones. Some of these cows don't care that I'm anywhere near them, right? You know, and some of these cows are going to start moving as I move closer. So as I move into their flight zone, I'm trying to see which ones are kind of picking me up. For example, this cow right here, I'm right on the edge of her flight zone right here. She's paying attention to me. She kind of picked you up there for just a second. Now her focus is back on me. If I move into that bubble, what happens when you push a bubble? That pressure has to go somewhere. So as I move closer into that bubble, she's thinking about moving right now. She's still comfortable. If I move 2 steps farther in, she's thinking a little more about moving. A couple more. And now I finally reached the edge of that bubble where I'm able to actually put some pressure and to drive her away from me. So again, that's a real basic principle. But when we think about cattle handling, knowing that flight zone, knowing that area where we can put pressure on is pretty important. So that's a real basic principle. The other principle that we talk a lot about in cattle handling is what we call the point of balance. And so the point of balance, like for example, if we look back at this 130 cow here, I'll move back over here. We think of that point of balance as being the shoulder. And so that point of balance being the shoulder, if I step in front of that point of balance, I'm able to stop her if she read the book. So there we go. If I get in front of that point of balance, I'm able to stop her. Now I'm pretty far in front of her because her attention's off that way, right? If I go past that point of balance, then I'll get her to step forward. So as I move past that point of balance, again, she didn't read the book exactly, and I put pressure on her, I can get her to move forward. So again, when we're thinking about flight zone, point of balance, those are just 2 real basic principles when we talk about moving cattle and handling cattle, but things that are important to remember. So my friend Curt Pate talks about cattle handling, and he doesn't quite say it this way, but life is all about kind of pressures and angles. And so when we think about pressures, we can apply different pressures, and then the angle that we approach these cattle with is very important. So these cattle are pretty broke. They're pretty nice cows. They've been handled really well, and so we're not going to have a whole lot of problem. If anything, we'll have a little problem getting them to move without a little bit of food motivation, right? And so there are different pressures that we can apply to get them to start moving and to initiate movement. And so the first one is a driving pressure. I just showed you on that 130 cow there where I kind of got into her flight zone and was able to push her off. This 129 cow here, I'm going to try to get in her flight zone. I'm going to try to push her off toward that corner. So I have to get pretty deep into that flight zone to get her to move. Okay, so I've applied a little driving pressure there. If I step back, she's going to keep going. But anyway, when we talk about driving pressure, that's what we normally are thinking about, is that driving pressure. But just as important as how I apply that pressure is how I release that pressure. And now, like I said, I didn't apply that really aggressively. She's still pretty relaxed. She's just kind of hanging out. This cow right here, example, this J26, this nice red cow here, she's not paying attention to me at all. I'm not anywhere even near her flight zone. Now she's going to kind of pick me up with her eye there. She's going to kind of come look at me. If I want to maintain her in that position, I can't put any driving pressure on her. I've got to kind of maintain her position, right? And then if I actually wanted to draw her there'd have to be some kind of draw this way. And so now I'm starting to draw her toward me. She's paying attention to me. I'm starting to kind of draw her toward me. If I want her to move off of me, I've got to change my type of pressure and apply a little driving pressure. Then I can hang back, I can maintain, I can stop her, and then let's see if she'll draw again. She listened to the book the first time, she didn't the second time. But again, she's got a lot of desire to be with the herd. And so anyway, those are just 3 types of pressures that we can apply. But I think that one of the principles that I think is very, very important is not only how do we apply that pressure, but how we release that pressure. Because you've been around livestock handling where people just apply pressure and don't give that cow any relief. That cow either is going to be desensitized or she's going to fight you back. So they've got to have that reward, and so that release of pressure is that reward. So the proper application and a proper release of pressure are both extremely important in how we handle cattle. And that also translates into if we have a crew working with us. There's a certain amount of pressure that you can put on them to get them to do something, but at some point you've got to kind of take that pressure off and do that. So anyway, so that pressure is really, really important. The other thing that, especially if these cows were, had a little more flight in them, the other thing that we would talk about would be the angle that we approach them. So if I approach, let's look at this 131 cow, she'll stop here. She's not paying attention to me, she's paying attention to the other. But if I approach her perpendicular and she picks me up, I'm kind of threatening her, right? And so that angle, if that sharp angle that I'm approaching her is perpendicular to her, that angle is threatening to her. If I go and work in a zigzag fashion, by doing that, instead of continuing to apply that pressure, that zigzag, I'm applying pressure, I'm removing pressure, that helps to keep them comfortable, and that is a non-threatening way to approach cattle. So when I'm approaching a new group of cows like this that we've got to work, now these cows have just been brought in here and they're kind of chilling out and kind of doing their own thing. But if I'm approaching a new group of cows here, I'm going to kind of try to evaluate those things that I've just talked about. I'm going to try to evaluate flight zone. I'm going to try to see if there's anything that potentially is going to give me any issues. Again, all of these cows, look very, very relaxed. They've been very well handled before, and so I think we won't have any problems with anything that really has a huge flight zone or anything that's going to be real scared or skittish. And what are those signs? How do I know a cow is scared or skittish or in discomfort? The ears will be up. Her head will be up. She'll be swishing her tail. She may be, if she's in a severe stress, maybe defecating. But anyway, none of these cows look pretty comfortable. When we talk about, cattle handling, that's a big thing, is we want those cows to be comfortable. We don't necessarily, at least I don't necessarily believe that cows express emotions or emote, but I can also tell you that I know when a cow is comfortable or when a cow is content, if you will. These cows are very, very content, right? These cows have been handled well. They're relaxed. They're not trying to get out of here. And so I think that's kind of our key goal. So I think as I look back on my life, when I was a little boy, all I wanted to be was a cowboy, right? You'd watch rodeo on TV and you'd watch bucking horses and you'd wanted to do all of that stuff. And as I evolved, I realized that I really wanted to be more of a cattleman, right? Somebody that really is maybe paying more attention to the stock rather than how they handle themselves or what skills they may or may not have. And I think that third evolution and the part that I'm trying to attain is to be a stockman. And that stockman is really somebody that cares about the whole thing, cares about not only his or her horsemanship or how he works on foot or how he works or on side by side or however, but not only paying attention to those things, but how the cattle are reacting, how the land is reacting, and how that whole system kind of works together to produce this safe and wholesome beef that we have. So anyway, those are just some kind of philosophical rantings, but I think, you know, we think about, we're all on some kind of continuum in owning cattle. Either we're, you know, kind of a beginner, we don't know a whole lot, but maybe we want to learn, all the way to kind of an advanced, you know, person. But even at that advanced level, there's still a lot to learn and a lot to pick up from these cows. They sure do you a really, really nice job. So those are kind of some of the basic principles of cattle handling that I think are important to us to remember. When we talk, going back to that fight or flight zone, you know, that cow can only think of one thing at a time. And I always want to stay on her thinking side. That cow's brain has a thinking side and it has a reacting side. And I always want to stay on her thinking side. If I get her in where she's triggered her fight or flight instinct, and she's not thinking, she's just trying to figure out a way to get out of this pen. And so if that is the case, it's going to take her a long time before she'll settle down to where she can think her way through this. So if I wanted to put these cows into a smaller pen, or I wanted to separate these cows from these calves, I can't trigger that response and have them think their way through that. So I've got to be able to handle them in a way that is calm. It's I'm not going to say comforting to them, but where they're comfortable, maybe even doing something they don't like, or going into a situation or a pen or whatever that they don't like. But I've got to do that in a way that keeps them in a relaxed and a thinking state of mind. So that's kind of always my goal. So we talked about some basic principles of cattle handling and moving and so forth. The other thing that's really important, and an important principle of what we want to talk about, is the fact that a cow wants to see you. A cow wants to see you. And part of that primary deal is if you think about it, that cow is a prey animal. And where's the location of her eyes? Her eyes are on the side of her head. The reason for that is she's usually spending most of her day, hopefully, with her head down grazing. And so she's got to have that vision on the side of her head to be able to look for predators, right? We, by nature, as humans, are predators. And so our vision is different than theirs, and we have to recognize that. So anyway, that cow, as a prey animal, wants to see me. And so if we think about that cow, think about you're driving up on the interstate, and you're going 65 miles an hour. A semi-truck comes behind you at 67, right behind you. What is your instinct? Your instinct is either slow down, let them pass, speed up, get away from them, pull over, do something to get out of there. That's the same thing with that cow. That cow wants to see me. And so if I get right behind her, I can't draw her straight because she's picking me up with that eye. Now she picked me up with the other eye. So I cannot drive her straight from right behind her because she wants to see me. This cow is picking me up with her left eye. If I can get her to switch eyes, which she did right there, then I can kind of drive her if I kind of bounce back and forth and pick up either eye. But if I stay with one eye, what is that cow's natural instinct? You saw that on that first cow that I tried to move. She's watching me. Her eyes, her head turns, her neck turns, her shoulders, her feet, and she'll go around in a circle. And so that's kind of the principle behind the bud boxes and the sweeps, is using that they want to go around you principle, and they want to see you principle in order to use those in a circular manner. So picking up that eye is very, very important. Now these cows are wanting to go back out of this smaller pen into the bigger pen, and so they've got some draw to go and do that. So what we're going to mess around with here now is kind of using that point of balance, slowing down or speeding cows up. As I go against the flow of that traffic, or against the flow of those cows, I'm going to speed them up. If I want to slow them up, I'm going to get in front of that point of balance. So I'll try to separate a few cows out here. I'll try to let my even numbered cows out and keep my odd numbered cows in. So we'll see how this works. So she's odd, so she stays in. So I'll move her. Circle her around. She's an even, so she can go out. She's an even. So if I want to slow her up, I get in front of her, stop her, check her, let her go. Stop her, check her, let her go. 33's back again. So I can send her back, give her a little pressure. I can let these two cows go. Push her back. Get in front of the point of balance here. She's an even. This cow really wants to get out, and so I'm having to watch her. 139 is not. I'm going to turn her. Turn her. I'm going to see if I can draw this 20 to come back out. 08 can go. 142 can go. 118 can go. 20 can go. Here's my 33 again. 63. I'm going to try to draw this darker red cow out if I can. This 33 is, let her go. Get in front. I'm going to try it the other way. Let her go. Let 60 go. Okay, so this is a situation where we're back at our family farm here, and you didn't realize you had a long-lost Mexican brother, you know, from Arizona here. And so this will be a common thing that happens on a lot of farms, where we're going to separate cows from calves because we're going to process those calves. And so we'll leave one of these guys kind of in charge of the gate, and that's the person that usually gets yelled at the most, right? Because a calf gets by. We're going to try to lead the calves in here. But again, we try to do this in a non-stressful manner for both our humans and for our people. So Tim and I will come over here and we'll kind of just send cows that way, and we'll kind of just, again, using that point of balance and that nice flow, let these cows calmly walk down there. If I want to slow her up, kind of get in front, I want to check. So we got a calf kind of thinking about going out right there. So we're still going okay. Then I can step in here and I can send this cow right in between Tim and I. Step back over here. And I got too far in front of her. So while I'm working here, Tim's back there. He's got those cows really working very nice over there. I'll ask this cow to step forward. And I'm not really getting too excited about getting in front of this little red heifer because I know I've got some backup here. Perfect. So I can send this little heifer back over here to Tim. Ask this cow to go forward. Let her go forward. Step in front of this calf. Ask her to go forward. Perfect. Now the only one here making any noise is myself talking. We're not having a whistle, having a holler. I can step right here. Those cows want to go out. So Tim had a really quick decision to make right there. He had that one cow that he could have turned back in there, but he wanted to make sure that he didn't lose these. And so that was a real quick decision that he had to make right there. So then I'll come over here and I'll pick this cow. So there's two different things I can do here. Since I have more calves over here, I'm going to spin her around this way and just peel her off on the outside. And I'm going to send her around the outside. Tim's going to turn these calves back toward me. I'm going to step in front of her. Just right. Exactly. Did that really well. So that's kind of an easy way to kind of sort cows and calves off. And like I said, we had plenty of help here, and good help, that knew what they were doing, that stayed calm. Everything's cool. These calves are not stressed out at all. We can go through, process them. They're going to respond to our vaccine or whatever treatment we're giving them. And anyway, so good job, gentlemen. We've had a really nice little little demonstration this morning. Really nice facility here on this farm. But also recognizing that the reality is that maybe sometimes you don't have that nice facility or those nice panels, or you're working at a little rental place or something that doesn't have that. And yeah, for sure, we understand that. So that's where cattle handling and being able to effectively move livestock becomes even more important. If you've got those old rickety wood pens, or maybe even no pens, or just a little wire fence that you're trying to get them in. So, paying attention to that stockmanship, that cattle handling is really, really important, especially when you don't have as good of facilities. But the thing that I will emphasize, regardless of facilities, is to think about safety. A lot of times we're working with our family, we're working with people that we love or we care about. And so we want to make sure that we always keep safety in mind. If something is sketchy, if you will, or something doesn't look like it's going to be safe, hey, speak up. Address it before it becomes an issue, because there's not a single life of any of these cows that's worth getting somebody hurt or injured, or even worse, killed for. And so, thinking about safety, it's really important. We talk about pen design. So if you're going to build a new pen, or a new design, or a new little facility, especially if you have a small farm, I think a great resource is Temple Grandin's website. Temple Grandin is, for those of you who don't know, is an animal behaviorist, and she's used her gift of autism and being able to think in pictures and to think like she believes animals think. Anyway, she's been able to use that to help revolutionize cattle handling and livestock production and livestock management. Anyway, her website's got a bunch of free different designs that can give you an idea on even real simple little things for small farms that'll be helpful to you as you think about how cattle need to flow, and even small ruminants and so forth. So take a look at her website, look at those different resources. Go to Extension. Extension has a ton of information about how to design facilities for small farms or even large farms. So anyway, use those resources, but remember, be safe out there.
This video was brought to you by the University of Maine Cooperative Extension Grazing Behavior Lab, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, Maine Beef Producers Association, and the Maine New Farmers Project. We would like to extend a special thanks to Pineland Farms, Collyer Brook Farms, and Dr. Dean Fish of Arizona for coming out and helping us film this video.